races that I've won and lost in almost 3 decades of hydroplane racing, there are many that I remember vividly. Anytime you sit on top of a 2,500 horsepower Thunderbolt that's flying over the water at speeds approaching 200 miles per hour, it's an experience you don't forget, no matter how many thousands of times you crawl into the cockpit. No two rides are ever the same. There's always an element of uncertainty. You're on a course that's constantly changing. Crosswinds and water conditions are extremely critical to frightening. The rooster tail, as magnificent as it is, it's a wall of water that can literally wash you out of a heat or a race. So when you ask what race stands out above all others, you might guess that it'd be a tough question to answer. But there is one race, one glorious race that will stand out of my mind as the race for years and years to come. That was on July 31st, 1977, on the Columbia River in Tri-Cities, Washington. The day I broke Garwood's 56-year record of most Gold Cup victories by an individual. That was the day I grabbed my 6th Gold Cup. That was a race that will forever be #1 to me. Great names in our sport. The Slow the Stanley Bears, Guy Lombardo and his Tempos, the Horace Dodges, the Shadis of Detroit. Just an incredible number of sportsmen who over the years have established records that were great to shoot for. But I guess the hero of just about every hydroplane chauffeur who's ever revved up his Allison or supercharged Rolls-Royce Thunderbolt engine is Garwood. Usually, when you hear Garwood's name mentioned, you'll hear the adjective legendary in front of it. If there's anyone who deserves to be honored, so it's Garwood. From 1917 to 1921, Garwood owns the hydroplane circuit. And throughout the 20s and the early 30s, Garwood brought with it imaginative style to hydroplaning that made it an international sport. For over 50 years, hydroplane chauffeurs have chased the records of the Gray Fox of Algonac, and the grand prize of all, a record 6 Gold Cup victories by a single driver, had eluded them all. The Gold Cup is the Kentucky Derby, or Indianapolis 500 of our sport. I tied Garwood with 5 Gold Cup victories in 1972. At the beginning of the 1977 season, many people were convinced that I'd probably have to wait even longer before I got another crack at the record 6 Gold Cup. The reason for the pessimism was understandable. Although we missed capturing the Gold Cup in 1976, we had won enough races and amassed enough points to become the national champion that year. Obviously, we had a winning boat. It was a boat that simply dominated the hydroplane racing circuit for 4 years. In 1976, the boat won 5 races, finished second in 2, and failed to finish only once. I had faith in the boat. I had faith that it could continue its winning ways in 1977, but I even had more faith in my crew chief, Jim Lucero. Jim had designed a brand new boat for Atlas Van Line to me. It's a cab-over model, which means that the driver sits right up front, ahead of the engine. For years, I had been one of the most vocal critics of the cab-over design for hydroplanes. I honestly felt that a driver sitting in the bow just wouldn't have the control over his craft that he had driving in the stern. So you can imagine how much faith I must have had in my crew chief, Jim, just to allow him to talk me into test driving his new design. After almost 30 years of sitting behind the engine, I felt absolutely naked the first time I perched myself in the cockpit of the new design. And I'll have to admit, the first couple of times out in the new craft almost convinced me that I should maybe stay with the kind of boat that I was used to. But once I got my bearings straight, once I learned to master the Thunderboat and not let it master me, and once I could feel that the boat was an extension of me and I was comfortable with it and seemingly wearing it better and better, I became sold on the design and the possibilities of maybe even winning a race or 2 in it. So, with one carefully thought-out decision, I broke every rule in the book. I caged my horses in the middle of the stream. I withdrew my bet on a sure thing and played the long shot. It was the biggest gamble I'd ever taken. I still find it almost incredible that the first time this brand new sleek craft was placed in competitive waters, it powered its way to a first-place finish. That was at the Champion Sparkplug Regatta in Miami. And before the season would end, some 4 months later in San Diego, 5 more wins would belong to the Atlas Van Lines racing team. Of course, the biggest race of all was July 31st at Tri-Cities, Washington. That was the Gold Cup. I wanted this one so badly I could taste it. Of course, wanting something like the Gold Cup isn't enough, really. 14 other hydroplane drivers wanted that gold just as much as I did. Professionals like Mickey Riemann and the national champion Miss Budweiser, Ron Snyder, Pete LaRoche, Tom Sheehy, super rookie John Petty, and others who wanted the Gold Cup just as much, even if for the first time. But this, it appeared, was going to be our day. And it seemed as though even the boat sensed how much this race meant to me. She had never performed so beautifully. In qualifying, she set new course and Gold Cup records, flying over the 2.5-mile course at over 128 miles per hour. And then in competition, she did it again. We set the Columbia River course and Gold Cup records for a competition lap at speed well over 124 miles per hour, beating the old lap record by almost 5 miles per hour. Even though we swept the preliminary heat, in the back of my mind, I knew I could lose it all in any number of ways. I could beat the clock at the starting line and have a lap penalty assessed, overturn in the corner, blow an engine, or just get beaten. I gotta tell you, my heart was racing as fast as the Rolls-Royce power plant as we began jockeying for position for the start of the race. I knew that among the thousands of people lining the banks of the Columbia River, a bunch of people from Atlas Van Lines and the United States Navy, for whom I'm an official Navy recruiter, and my family and friends were there cheering us on. As I prepared to make my run for the gun, I could almost feel them behind me, urging me to get off to a flying but careful start.
Hi again, everybody. We're only seconds away from the start of the 73rd Gold Cup, the most important race of the year for these hydroplane chauffeurs, their crews, their spouses, and their boats. The boats are beginning to make their way to the starting line. In hydroplane racing, the Thunderboats begin with a racing start. Remember, the idea is to come pounding down the straightaway as fast as you can fly. Hit the starting line just as the big-time clock hits 0. That's the idea. But you also have to have a few races under your belt to get the timing down right. If you jump the gun, you're in trouble. You're penalized a lap. And that just about ends your chances of getting into heavy contention. All right, now the boats are beginning to make their move. They're starting to come down the stretch. All but Muncie and his Atlas Van Lines U1. I don't even see Bill. Wait a minute, there he is, trailing the pack. He's way behind. Muncie may be out of it. Muncie better hurry if he's going to catch him. As they approach the starting line, some of the drivers are starting to hold back. Remember, it could be that some have started to make their move too soon. But here comes Muncie. Man, I want to tell you, he is flying. If he can hit that starting line just right, it's going to be way on his way to the victory. He's going to leave everybody else in his rooster tail. And he does. Here he comes. He is flying. Look at Bill Muncie. It's incredible. It looks like everyone else is standing still. Muncie came out of nowhere to take the lead going into the first turn. And believe me, that can be a very important lead. I said that you have to have a few under your belt to get that timing down right. And Bill Muncie, a real pro, has made me look like a prophet, folks. He's got more races under his belt than any man who's ever lived. Checking the standings in second place, the man who can take the Gold Cup away from Muncie, Mickey Riemann, the Miss Budweiser. But if Riemann's going to stand a chance to grab this one, he's going to have to reach back and give it everything he's got. Riemann's boat, by the way, you may recall, had been damaged in qualifying runs earlier this week and had to be dragged from the bottom of the river. It's an amazing tribute to this Budweiser crew that he's even in the race, much less fighting it out for gold with Muncie. But the Budweiser's going to have to really have something extra if it plans on Muncie today. Muncie's unofficial time, listen to this, for the first lap, translates to almost 122.5 miles per hour. And if he keeps that up, nobody in the river is going to catch him. Now that 122.5 miles per hour, as I mentioned, is Muncie's average speed around the whole course. Includes his speed on those corners, which you know can really be tricky. Those boats go into the turns at about 140. them, let's say at 100, then kick up on the chute to 170 in 6 or 7 seconds. It's got to be an incredible thrilling ride for a driver. The secret of that rapid acceleration is nitric oxide. It's that laughing gas your dentist might give you to relieve the pain when you have a tooth pulled. It'll make you talk funny. You know, it's like your voice is being played at 78 instead of 33 and a third. Well, it does the same thing to those unlimited. It boosts the horsepower of those monster engines from 400 to 100 horsepower over their normal 2,500 to 3,000 horses. And that's what makes those babies zip when they come out of the turn. Okay, we're on the final lap now. Bill Muncy has eased off the throttle. He's got this one in his hip pocket. He doesn't want to do any damage to that engine, so he's going to give it just enough to win comfortably now. Behind him is Mickey Regan. He should probably take second. Then comes the Squire and Barney Armstrong machine. You may recall Peter LaRocque's KYYX and Tom Sheehy in the Anheuser-Busch Natural Ice were forced out of the race with engine problems. Here he comes. Here comes Muncy into the last turn of the final day. He's got to be the happiest man in America. He's got to be showing those ivories from ear to ear. An unprecedented 6 Gold Cup victories for Bill Muncy. And if you know this amazing athlete, you know how much this victory means to him. And we're just as happy as we can be for him. Here he comes. It's official. What a day. Atlas Van Lines and Bill Muncy. An historic Gold Cup win today.
As I said, this was the race for me, for my personal career particularly. It's the one that's just most important to me. For the younger drivers, it's a new mark to shoot for. I just hope that I'll be able to live with my record for a while before someone comes along and dominates the sport for a number of years. But for me, climbing out of the cockpit and being greeted by my wife and friends, well, that was without a doubt the biggest moment of my life.